Hi, everybody. It's Mama, Jason, whatever you want to call me today. How is everybody doing? Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Good morning, Jennifer. It's good to see y'all. All right, so please feel free to like and share the video. We are on week I don't remember of our self-care and mental health break with our wonderful friends, Patti and Lindsey. So I think I'm going to go ahead and bring them on. All right. I see. There we go. I was waiting for Lindsey to finish sharing. I was like,
yeah, I was laughing so hard when you're like, week, I don't even remember.
I'm like, whatever week it is. I think we're like week 6, 7. I don't know. That's okay.
We'll put it at week something.
Yeah.
It is week something on day someday.
Uh-huh.
So awesome. So how's everybody? How was your week?
Filled with lots of work. Was looking forward to today. We got some interesting things we're going to be talking about. So, yeah.
Awesome. Miss Lindsey, what's up? What's new?
It's nothing new. Same old, but been busy. Got some new clients starting soon, so that's exciting. And then had the fun conversations. Patti, you might have had this too, of realizing that some of my clients now have actually never met me in person. And
wow.
That's kind of cool, though, to see how well the telehealth is still really working. So that was inspiring. I felt really inspired by that this week.
That's really, really good. I mean, it's who would have thought that we would come to the world like that? I mean, I know, and I could be wrong, but has telehealth, is it something that maybe has been offered before COVID?
Oh.
Like some people do it regularly.
Yes, there are some people who have their complete practice based on telehealth.
Okay.
To kind of allow that flexibility and freedom. Because for those of us that are in private practice, we do have our own kind of schedules and things like that. So there are people that have been doing this for over probably a decade. It's become more prominent, of course, with COVID. And there's many counselors who are actually not going back to in-office because they've enjoyed doing telehealth and realize you still can make that personal connection. You still can have those, hard to conversations and still do the work, even if you're not completely present in an office setting.
Gotcha. That's great. I think I'd heard someone that has done that. Sorry. My phone, I usually like to watch for messages, and apparently Apple now has it's you can read what we're saying now.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Sorry. I was so distracted. I was like, I didn't know we had a teleprompter now. We do.
That's great, especially for those that are harder hearing and things like that.
Absolutely. That's pretty awesome. I just put it on the volume all the way down, and then it started doing it. Learn something new today.
That's cool.
Hopefully they get our words right and it doesn't do like spell check.
Pretty awesome. I put the volume. Yeah, it's on it. Wow. All right, Mac. So awesome. So yeah, I've had a crazy busy week. I've been back to work now a week. It's been very interesting. We were talking about that before. My clients honestly have just absolutely been great. They've been really awesome. It's just been really hard to wear a mask all day, and I'm glad that we're doing it. We went to lunch on a couple days ago. Scott and I did, and we decided to go to a restaurant and sit on the patio. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm out in public, sitting on a patio, not wearing a mask. This is so different. Like for me, it was different not wearing it. Granted, I've not been in any stores or anything yet, but it was just like, it's definitely this new norm is pretty interesting. And we were actually discussing before we went live on just some of our personal experiences with people in public and how people are responding and acting. And, it's hard for me being precautious not to look at someone not wearing a mask and be honest, we want to like pop them in the back of the head or something. We have all this stuff that goes through our mind, and I kind of will just kind of segue to this because it was coming to my mind too, is we've talked about this many times with anything that I do, is respecting other people's opinions and views. And we all have our view and opinion of whether we should wear a mask, we shouldn't wear a mask, and CDC has their opinion and Billy Bob has theirs and the government has theirs. And, none of us really know. But I know for us, we feel it's respectful, where we feel it's not only providing safety for ourselves, but the people around us, and respecting people. So, it's just really hard not to, when people lash out at us for wearing a mask, not hard to lash out for people not wearing a mask.
Right.
How do we find that balance with that? And then we'll kind of get into the personal space thing later, because we get kind of talk about that too.
Yes. Well, and the way that I have been addressing it, and I'll speak from, I guess, a personal point of view as well as the professional point of view. From the professional point of view, and even into my personal point of view, is yes, everyone is entitled to their belief system, to their thought processes and things of that nature. Where I think that there's that real dissonance is in understanding that when we go out, whether it is to a restaurant, to a grocery store, I know Disney Springs recently opened, and people become argumentative, just from a logistic and legal point of view, is understanding that is personal property. Just like, if I go to someone's house and it's their custom to take, shoes off at their door, I'm not going to go stomp my shoes throughout their house. So, kind of having that respect factor and understanding that if you want to do it in your house, that's your personal property. But when we're venturing into other people's personal property, grocery stores, whatever, that it is personal property. It's not about liberties or tyranny or people invading on your civil rights. Like we were just talking before, I remember as a kid, we didn't wear seatbelts. We sat in the backward facing station wagon where we could see out the back seat. There wasn't car seats and like that. And when people, when click it and ticket became a thing, people went haywire over that. But now it has become a norm. And I think right now, seeing people wearing masks is part of that norm that we're all experiencing. And a lot of these companies, if we all were to take a step back, have to realize, regardless of your personal beliefs, they have to protect not only their employees, but whoever else might be coming in that store.
Yeah.
And we all know people are sue happy.
Yeah.
If that's the only place I went and I got COVID, now I could sue that store. So understanding that they're doing so for the safety of their business, the safety of their employees, and honestly, the safety of anybody coming through, because oftentimes I think people forget asymptomatic is a real thing.
Right.
Or you may
legit.
You may be asymptomatic for that 13 out of the 14 days. And I've heard this because a lot of my family work in the med field. That 14th day, it kicks people in the butt, but that for 13 days, they've been out gallivanting around. Yeah. So, kind of, like I said, taking that step back, identifying people's personal space, even regardless of COVID-19, everyone has their own personal space to begin with. Yeah. But right now it is being dictated of being 6 feet. And again, that's based on, I'm not a doctor. None of us are doctors or epidemiologists or virologists, but all these are being recommended by that. Now, whether you think it's a hoax or it's not real, err on the side of caution. Being from Florida and having lived here, well, I'm not from Florida, but I've been here long enough to be a true Floridian. If they tell me there's a possibility that a hurricane level 3 or 4 is coming at me, I'm going to take those precautions, knowing sometimes they do just flirt and they go back out and we don't even get them. I'm still going to take those precautions as a human being in the just in case scenario, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Makes sense.
Yeah. I think really understanding again, it's about respecting people's choices, as much as we want to choose, we want the choice to wear a mask. For those who don't want to wear a mask, that is their choice. They get to make that choice. But again, as a business owner, if, I keep going back to like Disney Springs and City Walk, because from what I've seen and from what I've heard, people said that they handled their openings amazingly. They felt very safe. They felt very respected. They felt very, aware of what was going on, and they are requiring that you wear a face covering. And so they have the right to do that. It is their property. It is their decision. It is their business. Mm-hmm. And they have the right to say, if you choose to not wear a face covering, you choose to not be able to participate in this activity right now. It is a choice. 100% it is a choice if you want to wear a face mask or if you don't want to wear a face mask. For whatever reason, it is a choice. they both deserve respect, even if you don't agree with them. Because again, that's that whole, agree to disagree situation, and making the best decision that you possibly can, given that, and I think that might be what's going on with a lot of places is people are confused because, if you go to the stores, it will say on certain, you are required to wear a face covering, and then you go in and half the store isn't. And so it's that idea of like, well, I don't really know what the rules are. Am I or aren't I required? So again, people are, I think for the most part, it's just maybe my personal opinion here, but for the most part, people really are trying to make the best decision that they can. And we don't have the best information to make those decisions. So a lot of people are kind of treading water, swimming in a circle, going, should I go this way or should I go that way? And it's really just about, again, let's approach people with kindness and respect versus that instant, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
I don't know if I'm doing it wrong. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I've never done this before.
And I think that's where we really lose that focus. And I love you're both pointing it out is, and Jennifer just commented and said, I wish I could crop part of this video out. People need to hear this. The good analogy about it's personal property. It's personal property, whether it's your business or your home. And I mean, I've experienced too at work. It's like, 99.999% of them, they get it. They feel safe. And that's what they're saying. They're saying, we come here because we knew you would take care of us and you would be concerned about us. Right. And I mean, as simple as I went to Starbucks. I actually went to Starbucks yesterday to pick up my online order, and they had it down and they were so kind, and I made a wrong move or something, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she says, it's okay, we're learning. And that's the thing is we all are, and we tell our clients that and I'm sure you tell yours, it's like, we're learning. This is something that we've never done, and we've been saying this for 2 months now. We've never been through this before. Nobody has. None of our generation has. So we don't really know. We're still learning. And I think that's where we have to give ourselves permission. And we've talked about this a lot in the mental health chats that we have, is giving ourselves permission to make those mistakes. And the key of all of this, period, hands down, is respecting other people. Yes. And that's what I was going to say, is that when we like in counseling, when we talk about communication skills, which I know when I start to talk about communication skills, people are like, well, I can talk to people. There's 4 communication styles. And what we see a lot on the media is what we would call an aggressive style. It's exactly what you think. The screaming, the yelling, I'm in a free country, you can't tell me what to do, and getting in people's faces. And that is not a healthy way to no, I guess, explain your point, try to grasp anything. I know that I'm in a lot of like autistic boards, and people say, well, if I have, sensory issues, am I protected by certain guidelines because I can't wear one? But that's a different tone. Now, asking those questions, that's what we call assertive. That is the healthy communication style. So for those out there, the 4 are aggressive, which is what we're talking about. Passive, where you just pretty much become everyone's doormat. You don't say anything. Everything internalizes. We get a lot of anxiety build up. Then we have the passive aggressive, which we've also seen in the media. Yeah. That's the snarkiness, the attitude going on. And we all know people like that. We want to be with the assertive. Right. 100%. Where if it is a true logistic question, like Lindsey and I both discussed, we do work with those on the spectrum. And I've been working with those on the spectrum about how to become comfortable with a mask. And can they become comfortable? Is it a different type? Is it a different fabric? Is it a respirator type? Is it a 3D printed type? Or if they can't do it at all, understanding and asking the questions of what protections they may have or what letters they may need. So, but again, that's an assertive question because they're not arguing, they're not screaming, they're not throwing their hands up in the air. They're asking true questions. And that's where, as clinicians, and I'll speak for myself as a clinician, I would like to see people approach it more like that than screaming in people's faces. I mean, there are individuals that are essential workers who used to be the bottom jobs. Everyone, would look at, I won't say everyone, a lot of people looked at them like they were menial task laborers. Yeah. But they're the ones that have kept us fed.
kept the food going, kept the gas going, kept the pharmacies open and things like that. And they do not get paid a lot of money for people to be yelling in their face. Period. The end. I don't care how upset you are that you didn't get your refund or how upset you are that they're requiring you to wear a mask. Again, part of being assertive is saying, I feel like I shouldn't need one. Okay, well, it's our requirement. You have to have one. Okay, I'll go to another store.
Right.
Period. The end. That would be the assertive way of handling that situation. So anybody out there, know the communication styles. So if you are somebody that is upset, or if you're upset because you're wearing a mask and someone's not, that doesn't give us the right to go screaming at people either. Because again, we are in a free country, if you will, and they do have the right to do that. But there are different ways to approach it in a friendlier, kinder, more patient way than screaming.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Really quick too. Welcome everybody. I see a lot of people have been joining. This is our self-care mental health break with myself, Patti, and Lindsey. So please feel free in the chat, leave some comments, let's interact with that. We'll get to those as quick as we can. We love to give the feedback, but this is really a time we're talking about stuff that's going on. We're talking about self-care. We're talking about mental health. And all this stuff that we're talking about here in the first 15 minutes literally is part of what we've been discussing. It's reality. It's what's happening. It's what we're experiencing, and you both have been fortunate and are able to work from home. I've had to go back in the salon, and it was scary. It has been scary. And, it's been a process for everyone. And we even talk about it, and as I said, about giving ourselves permission to make mistakes, about how are we handling, kind of stepping back and looking at the way persons are responding and saying what they're saying and why they're saying it, and reassuring them that we are looking out for their safety. Jennifer did say, I love it. Jennifer gets involved. She's loving it. I avoid going out. When I had to last week, their dog, they had to take it to the vet. I wore one and I felt like I couldn't breathe, but the fear of catching the virus was stronger than being able to breathe. Laugh out loud. I get it. Listen, to the store is one thing, but 8, 9, 10 hours, my nose is raw. Like you're dehydrated. Dehydration is the big key, because I'm not able to drink my water like I normally am, where I'm just constantly drinking it because I have to remove my mask to do it. So there are those things that, we're having to learn and process, and we're making our stylists go outside and breathe. Go outside, take your mask off, stand out in the sun, stand outside, get some fresh air to renew and refresh yourself, because it's physically taxing too. And we get it. We're all, and I heard this said last week, and I'm going to keep repeating it. We're all on the same river. We're in different boats. Some of us are in yachts, and some of us are in canoes, and some of us are floating on a piece of wood. But we're all going down the same river. What did you say?
I said we're floating with Rose on the door.
Yeah.
You know what? No, she pushed me off. She never learned for me. But exactly. So I think that's really important. So please feel free, y'all, send us some chats and messages. I'm going to turn this over to you two for a little bit, and I'll be back. So y'all take care of my lady friends here. Y'all chat, and I'll be back really soon. So continue. Thank y'all.
So what we're going to do in order to kind of help some of maybe those stressors, like Jennifer was saying, and maybe some of you out there have been feeling, is Lindsey and I are going to go back and forth with different, what we call mindfulness exercises. And we'll explain more of what that is. So I'll hand it over to Miss Lindsey.
So you guys may have heard the term mindfulness. It's kind of been one of those buzzwords that in the industry, or even I think it's becoming very corporate. There's a lot of apps that help promote mindfulness. There's a lot of YouTube videos that help promote mindfulness. I think that even in the schools, they're really working on trying to teach the kids mindfulness, which is great because it is a thing, and again, buzzword, but it is an amazing skill that you can learn and that you can use literally anywhere. And that's the main reason why I really thought it was going to be important for us to talk a little bit about it today, and even give you guys a couple tips and tricks and activities that you can use, because as we've just talked about in the earlier part of this conversation, everybody is just one drop away. I don't know if that's how you guys are feeling or what you're experiencing, but it to me, it just, everyone seems like when you go out or even on social media, which I've put some limits on myself for social media because it's just too much. Everybody is so tight and so anxious and so ready to fight. You know, I mean, I feel like everyone's got like their fight face on.
Yeah.
And you never, you know, I know Patti and I, we were talking earlier just about things we have seen in the news of people just losing it and violence happening because people are just done. They've had it, they're done. And that's not the way that we want you guys to cope with it. Because again, being aware of consequences, going out and getting a gun and bringing it to a store, it's not going to get you what you want. It's not the good way to do it.
No, not at all. And you know, also kind of sitting there, and I don't want to say suffering in silence, but in a lot of ways some people do, especially if we have anxiety already pre-existing, or we already have some sensory issues and things of that nature, phobias. You know, we want to make sure that all of you out there, wherever you may be, you can have these, I guess, like activity routines that you can use. If you're in the car, if you're at home, if you're at the store, if you're at a hair salon, if you're out in public anywhere, instead of just being kind of frozen with fear or being apprehensive about doing things because that anxiety is way too high.
Mm-hmm. And so what mindfulness is it really is that ability to take a minute and be completely present in the exact moment that you're in. A lot of times we'll use terms like grounding, because that means that you're able to physically put yourself back where you're at. Because a lot of times when it comes to your emotions, you know, anxiety, anger, fear, all of those, we get wrapped up in them. And it's, you know, one of these days I'll do the brain thing so you guys, we can play with the brain. Because I know we talked a little bit about my nerves that last week. But it really is that your turtle, that's what I call your gorilla, which is, but he freaks out and there's no way to like chill him out. So with mindfulness, this is something that we also work a lot with trauma clients, because they'll get triggered and they'll go, you know, flashbacks. They'll go right back to that moment to bring them back to the exact present and have that moment of just being right where you're at and establishing that you are safe. Because at the end of the day, most, if not all, Patti, you confirm, trigger emotions because we don't feel safe, regardless of if that's a rational feeling of not being safe or an irrational feeling of not being safe. It comes back down to safety. So with doing some mindfulness techniques, you're bringing your brain back to the exact moment where you're at now and being able to identify, am I really safe, or is there really a fear or a threat really that I need to get myself out of? So do you want me to talk about the one that I use a lot?
Yep. Okay.
So the one that I use a lot is called, I don't even know what it's called. I call it like the 5 senses.
That's what I call it.
I don't know what like they call it. You know, like,
it makes sense.
It makes sense to me. And this is one that my clients, especially even my little kids, can really, really, really get into. And what's nice with it also is parents, you can use it with your kids to help coach them through an anxious moment. And even for my kids who are on the spectrum, again, this is one that my parents can really coach with their kids. So basically it's this idea of, you know, getting yourself in that moment and talk literally in my head. I'll go, okay, what are 5 things that I can see right now in front of me? And right now I see a Ritz cracker box. I see a Minion squish toy. I see a Pandora bracelet. I see a green Post-it, and I see a pink sign behind my computer. Okay, what are 4 things that I feel? Well, I feel the softness of my shirt. I feel the weight of my hair. I feel the fan blowing behind me. I feel, that was 3. My chair. My chair is really squiggly. 3 things that you hear. Well, I just heard a car drive by. I hear the whirling of the fan. I hear Milo snoring in the background. 2 things that I smell. I don't have a lot of like fragrant things around me right now, but I do smell my, believe it or not, my deodorant, or my hand soap. Yeah, for sure, because I washed my hands before I got up here, so I smell my hand soap. And then sometimes it can be one thing that you taste, and that could be like, even in my mouth right now, I would say like I taste water because I'm looking at water, so it's making me think that I'm tasting water. And in that moment, I thought about nothing but right this exact moment. And by doing that, if we're going to nerd out for just a second, it just brings that emotional ceiling down, which gives me a minute to assess, am I safe or is there a threat? So, and you can do it in all different ways. You know, you can switch it up. 5, the sight is usually the one that people pick 5 for because they can see things pretty quickly. But again, if you have somebody who maybe is visually impaired, don't pick sight for the 5 things, you know?
And I think it also depends on, like I let people know, and that's why I call it the 5 senses as well, is that you can rotate them out depending on where you're at. You know, if you're in a grocery store, it might be easier to smell 5 things. And you know, you may not want to touch the 4 things. So we'll do the 4 things is what can I see? So, and this isn't good just for kids, it's also good for adults.
Yeah.
You know, so if you are feeling, what I often refer to is like that irrational brain taking over. And when the irrational portion of the brain takes over, all thoughts go out the window because it is that fight, flight, freeze, and thoughts are going 160 miles an hour. And that's why these mindfulness exercises are so helpful because, like Lindsey was saying, it brings that emotions down. So now you can really start to ask yourselves, why am I feeling unsafe? What am I worried about? Is that worry from the irrational brain or is there a true concern? But when you're at that high stage, you can't answer those questions rationally. Nobody can. It's just a human brain experience. Yeah. But by doing these kind of exercises, we're able to take that deep breath down here. Wow. So I, like Lindsey, do use that one. Another one that I often use is what I call the ABC game. And what that is you pick movies, bands, colors, fruits, vegetables. I mean, the themes, you want to rotate them out so we don't start to memorize. Yeah. But you go, okay, what's a fruit that starts with A? Apple. B, banana. C, cantaloupe. D. And most people go, Now, if you get stuck on a letter, count 1, 2, 3. If nothing comes to mind, go to the next letter. The reason why that's important is because if you get stuck on that letter, boom, that irrational brain kicks right back in. And we want to keep that distraction going to where you have to remain present. So again, pick anything you want. If you see me moving around, I'm sorry, my knee's hurting, so you'll hear the creak. But it helps you stay in the moment. Not much unlike, I don't know how old many of you are that are watching, but I remember when we would go see family up north, you know, we would do like the state game, which a lot of those that I work on the spectrum get stuck on, like Pokemon characters or states or different types of trains. We all know that there's those things that they have a hyper focus on. Utilize that. Yep. Like, okay, name 10, Pokemon characters. If they do that so quick, all right, let's name 10 that are yellow. Let's name 10 that are green. And you can continue to do it until you see that de-escalation happen. And again, we're able to take that deep breath.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny that you say that because my cousin and my best friend, we did that one time. We didn't even know that that's what we were doing. We were at Disney one time and we were waiting in line and we just started playing this. We called it the animal game. And it's like, okay, come up with all the animals that you can think of that start with an A. And and then once you like run out of those, all the ones that you think of that start with a B. And it was so funny because in all reality, we would play it and then we would kind of lose interest in it, But then all of a sudden one of us would be like, oh my God, this guy, C, and it's, and so you can, especially with as a family, if you are you know, in the car or at the grocery store or waiting at a restaurant. You know, you can use it as a game with the whole family, and really that way too, it kind of helps the person who maybe is having the anxiety to not feel so isolated and to not feel alone and to feel supported. And that is a huge part of what we all need right now, because again, we're all a little tight. And so knowing that we have those people behind us can be really, really helpful.
And another kind of mindfulness exercise that I often will tell people, because like you said, in those times when you're feeling tense, when we can actually tense our muscles, we can feel a form of relaxation. So I always tell people we start with like the neck and shoulders. So it's simple. You just raise that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, release. Now go to the arms like you're showing your muscles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we release. We go to our stomach. Tuck that in. Oh, push it. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Then we lift up our legs and we point our toes and we feel those muscles. And you do 3 to 5 rounds of that, depending on where that anxiety level is. And after you do it, you'll realize that since your muscles have become so tense and relaxed, that they start to kind of feel like jelly.
Yeah.
And that's something, again, you can do at the grocery store, at home. You know, if you're at Disney Springs, you can sit down. If you're, you know, in the car, it's easy to do. If you got kids and you're at the grocery store, put them in the shopping cart. Go through it with them. But these are things that help you stay present, help release that tension, help catch that breath, literally and metaphorically. You know, there's all kinds of these little, and they're kind of like games, you know, to keep you kind of, again, that distracted. And when we can distract the brain, it can calm down. So just like the ABC game, if you have a child or yourself maybe at home and you're still practicing some of that home isolation, you know, if you don't want to go through the senses because you already did that and it's not working, and if it doesn't work, nothing else worked, go to the next thing. Like we've always talked about, find your jam. So I'll tell people, okay, pick out 10 things in your environment that you enjoy doing and go through it. It could be, I like watching TV, I like my video games, I like my, you know, comic books, I like this, I like that. Are we calm yet? No? Okay. Now those 10 things, let's find 10 things, kind of similar to what Lindsey and I did with you it was last week with the rainbow exercise. Go through the colors of the rainbow. What's 10 things in my house that I can spot? What's 10 things that are orange that I can spot? Because again, as long as we're keeping that brain distracted, it can't jump on the anxiety train, is what I call it. And that's when a lot of these extra tension moments come into play. So kind of keep going with the flow until you realize it's settled. And if you have to go through all of these suggestions we give you, keep going through them. Because oftentimes when I talk to people about coping skills and mindfulness, what works 9 times out of 10, that one time it doesn't work, don't throw your hands up and say there's nothing else. There's always something else.
Another one that I'll do a lot with like my teens specifically is like the song lyrics, because it's amazing how quickly you can say one part of a song and somebody else will be able to say the next part, and then somebody else will be able to say the next part, or you know, you just have that tune that gets stuck in your head. And we all know like silly songs that kind of, I would say most people know, obviously not everybody, but a lot of times, you know, something so simple as saying like in summer, you know, and then all of a sudden it like prompts to start singing the rest of that song, or at least saying that song. Or, you know, okay, then what's the things all about Olaf that are funny or, you know, cute or excited. And so the songs with the teens is a really, really good way to do it. And then another one that I'll use, honestly, more with my adults. The kids love this one, but I noticed that the adults really get into it more, is the idea of the creating your happy place, or even using like the senses in your happy place. So for example, for me, one of my happy places is Disney. And so being able to close my eyes and say, even though I'm not there, I can smell the popcorn. Like I can taste the popcorn. I can taste the Diet Coke that goes with that buttery, salty, delicious popcorn. You know, I can see the balloons. I can see the castle. If it's Halloween, I can see the Mickey pumpkins on the lanterns or the big giant Christmas tree. I can smell the gingerbread. And really, so now not only am I giving myself that mindfulness component, but then I'm also giving myself that mental break by being somewhere else that maybe I physically can't be right now. And that can bring you back down and grounded, and then able to kind of go, okay, again, where am I at now? You know?
And with the breathing, like you all have heard us talk about breathing, mindfulness, deep breathing is where I often change it up for like an actual mindfulness and not just like, let's increase the feel good chemicals in the brain, is have individuals put their hands right on their diaphragm. I know you guys can't quite see it, but I'll do it here. Put it right here on our diaphragm and we go, then you suck it in. When you feel it go in, you got that real good diaphragm breath. When you suck in, we want to think of a positive thought. Like, it could be, I had a great breakfast today. Breathe out the negative. Yeah. I might be scared about going out, or I'm worried about somebody. And then I breathe in. Okay, what's another good thought I have is, oh, that new game's coming out that I really want to play. Breathe out. Oh, I forgot to take the trash out. Breathe in. And we want to release the negative thoughts. So it's kind of like that self-talk.
Yeah.
But again, it makes you be mindful of the positive and negatives, and we can dispel that negatives. And I know it seems kind of silly, but just like we've talked about journaling and different ways to journal, whether it's painting, clay, finding different songs to make up your song sheet, all of those are ways to get that negative stuff. Like I've said it time and time again, that like word vomit and emotional vomit, to get those negative emotions out. But that is a very helpful exercise, along with like the star breathing we talked about before, because a lot of times when you're in that heightened state, counting to 5 is impossible. So, taking that time to, at that peak, hold it, 2, 3, blow out. Yeah. And we trace that star, and we can de-escalate and remain present in that moment.
Yeah.
So all of these are great exercise. And again, this is good for all ages.
Yeah.
All ages. As long as they are at the age of kind of that cognitive cohesion of like probably even 18 months old can get some of these.
Honestly, that's a great starting point for what I was going to say too, is ways to kind of teach breathing, because again, breathing is something that we just do, and so we kind of forget that there are different types of breathing, and there's different purposes for that. And especially with little kids, having a concrete, tangible thing they can hold, like you said with the star, things that they can relate, having that relatable thing. And as adults, that's helpful too. So a lot of times what I'll do is, like you said, 18 months old even, bubbles. And bubbles are literally one of the best ways to figure out if you know what you're doing when it comes to deep breathing. And that's because, of course, I don't have any here with me. If I was in the office, I'd have some. But let's just pretend Lindsey has them. Yay! I think most of us can understand that, when you put the wand in the bubbles and you pull it out and you go, you're not actually getting any bubbles. Like, you're mostly going to get spit, which right now we really don't want. So... but if you put the wand in the bubbles and you pull it out and you do that.
Get that good long breath that we need.
You get big bubbles. You get a lot of bubbles. You get bubbles that have a little bit more like sustainability to them. So they're going to actually float, and, versus those little tiny bubbles, they don't go anywhere. They just fall. And so that can be, if you guys at home are wanting to learn how to do deep breathing, that can be something that you guys can try right away. And it's easy. The kids love it. Again, it's just something concrete, tangible. You can touch it. That can help them to really understand the concept. And the kids just get it. They get it that way. It's really cool.
And speaking of tangible, another great one for everybody out there, and I know we're throwing a lot of ideas out there,
Like,
but we do because, again, we know that
we need Jason to park.
What works for the reason why we're giving you so many ideas is we understand that what works for one person isn't going to work for another. It depends on everyone's makeup. So hopefully some of these ideas stick with you. But another great one, and I know that a lot of the individuals, because I know Jason's mentioned that on Rose Dynasty, do have like autism or sensory stuff. But even if you don't, if maybe your child has ADD, ADHD, anxiety, or is just plain bored, there are a lot of exercises you can do if you start seeing that tension rising. So like an example, since I can grab these two things that are very opposite right next to me, and I'm sure you guys won't be surprised by the stuff in the back, but like I have this, and then I have my Jack and Sally blanket. Hand somebody two items.
Yeah.
Have them explain to you, what do they feel like? Mm-hmm. I can say, okay, this part's a little pointy. This part is kind of like a diamondy shape. This part's smooth. I see that it's white and then it's black. It has multiple layers. And you have them explain it. Again, this may seem so insignificant, but again, we have that focus.
Yep.
And then when they're done with that, okay, what's the next one? Okay, well, I see Jack's face. I see Sally's face. So it's multicolored. It's very soft. And when I have it on me, it's very warm. And I can feel the stitches. And again, we're having them stay in that moment. But we want two things that are very different tactile. Like I have it over there in my big basket where some of the stress balls that I have, some are really squishy and soft like the squishies, and other ones are really hard. And feeling it soft and feeling it real hard, it helps stimulate the brain in a different way that we don't always recognize. Like Lindsey was saying, we don't think about breathing, we just do it naturally. But when we have to think about it, okay, there is different kinds of breaths. Just like, okay, they both look like balls, but one's really soft and one's really hard, and kind of trying to differentiate that in your brain all also helps you remain in that moment. Most parents have stuff in their bags, their diaper bags, their purses, their pockets, and you can pull out a quarter and a piece of gum.
Yeah.
What's the difference? What how do they feel? One's hard, one's soft, one smells, one doesn't, or they both might have a different smell. What's that smell? Tell me what that's like. So if you aren't the one maybe going through it, you can ask those questions to someone else. But if you're the one going through it, you can ask yourself those questions to help de-escalate those situations. And again, these can be used everywhere across what we call all environments, no matter where you're at.
I love how you brought up the idea of like just regular everyday items being a something. And for me personally, that's such a huge thing because I do have ADHD and then I do have anxiety. And so a lot of times for me, it's learning. It took me years to learn how to take care of myself in a way that wouldn't be distracting to other people. Because even though it's my stuff, it is my responsibility to deal with it and to learn how to cope with it. And so it's so funny that you say that because literally for the past few weeks, I've had my charm bracelet. And even if I don't wear it, it's this idea that it has different charms. So they all have a different feel. Yep. They all have, and then on top of it, this one specifically is my travel charm bracelet. So each one of these charms has a different memory associated with it. So not only am I giving myself a sensory thing to keep myself grounded and focused and centered, I'm also giving myself the opportunity to have some mindfulness in, okay, wow, this one right here, this is Big Ben. So you can see it, there you go. Yeah. But so I was last year. And so this one specifically will trigger all the memories that I had. And again, sensory things. I'm a huge sensory person. So I can remember the smell of the streets in London. I can remember the feeling of being in the streets in London. Trust me, they're really crazy and crowded and it was a little scary and I didn't actually like it that much. But being able to identify like, wow, I'm so grateful that I had that experience because now I know that that wasn't something that maybe I would love to do again. I have one of my favorite ones that's on here is my panda. And that one for me is for when I went to Washington, D.C. and saw the pandas for my birthday a few years ago. And again, all the sensory memories that come from just having this, and you guys probably haven't even noticed it because I just keep it in my lap and I just fidget with it because I need to fidget. And it gives me autonomy to take care of myself, which is something that's the most important part, because again, it's not anybody else's responsibility to take care of me. It's not anybody else's responsibility to fill up my cup. You know, my grandma used to say to me all the time, and when I was a kid, and especially a teenager, when you're in relationships, and you're like, why isn't he calling? And she would say all the time, you can never wait for somebody else to make your day. You have to be the number one person to make your day every single day. And it's so true in the same sense of we can ask for support and we can reach out and give support, but at the same time, knowing how to take care of yourself is such a freeing experience, because then you know that you've got this, you can do it. And any situation, that's why we've talked so much about having so many things in your toolbox. Because that way, you know, no matter what the situation is, even if you have to ask for help, that's still in your toolbox, and you know you can ask for help. It's huge.
Well, a lot of the mindfulness exercise, and I'm pretty sure, Lindsey, you've heard of this, but for those who haven't heard of this quote, it's by, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right, Lao Tzu. And what it says is, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. If you're at peace, you are living in the present. And that is, I in my opinion, sums up what mindfulness is. Because oftentimes if we are thinking of the past and dredging up the woulda, coulda, shouldas, who, what, when, where, why, hows, we start to feel very down.
Yeah.
Where when we're focusing on, you know, well, what's going to happen, and when can we go out, and, you know, when are things going to get back to normal, and and we're living in that future, that anxiety builds so much. So if you are kind of finding yourself in that past, or you find yourself going to that future thought process, that's another reason why these exercises are so very helpful, to kind of bring you back to the here and now. And I know that you mentioned, like, you're a very tactile person. And I know a lot of the parents out there that have like messaged and have been posting and commenting, have talked about their kids having sensory issues and being on the spectrum. My belief, though, is even though those on the spectrum, because my son's on the spectrum, I get it, they have it more so. We as human beings are very sensory oriented. You know, if someone has a candle that is not a smell you enjoy, you are going to feel that. You're going to choose the one for your house that is relaxing and enjoyable. You know, if you go to your parents' house for the holidays and you smell your parents' cookies, or your roommate makes this special bread, because I know when my husband bakes his bread, oh my God, the house is amazing smelling. So, you know, that's, again, those smells or those sensories. Sight, you know, I know a lot of people, luckily all my clients have been digging it because they know me. But, you know, this might freak out some people, where my clients are like, oh my God, that's so cool. And every once in a while I change up the background. They're like, that wasn't there. What is that? Yeah. You know, so that sight hits. Yeah. So like I talked about, I surround myself with the stuff I enjoy seeing. So again, we're very much there. Tactilely, you know, I have a weighted blanket. I have anxiety too. So I have a weighted blanket. I have fidget stuff. Because again, yes, I take that accountability, because somebody's not always going to be there to, you know, fix it. It's my job to do that, unless I'm in a certain state where I can reach out and vent or whatever. You know, taste.
Yes.
My husband loves Brussels sprouts. I think they smell like farts and taste like farts. I'm not touching them with a 10-foot pole, right? So we always know what we like and don't like. You know, so when it comes to all of these things, like sounds, you know, I don't like the high-pitched squeaky sounds. They
like a dog toy?
No, the dog toys are fine, but it's more like that mechanic, like, whee, you know, that'll make me go, no. You know, where other sounds, or even with music, like my husband loves the metal music, and I'm like, you know, but so I know what I like. And that's, I think, as human beings, we are very sensory oriented, which is why a lot of these mindfulness exercises, if you notice, are sensory oriented. They are about what we can see, what we can feel, what we can smell, and even down to taste. Think about when you're upset. Most people are going to go for salty or sweet.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a comfort thing. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're telling you all of these are good for everybody and of all ages. Because I think it's important that we do cover that broad spectrum.
Yeah.
And, and again, staying from that culturally competent point of view, is that sensory, things almost everybody has. I won't say everybody. And like Lindsey said, if there are ones that maybe aren't applicable to you due to a different ability, whether it's, you don't have the use of your hands, or you might have a nerve condition that you can't feel, or you have a hearing impairment, which like my daughter has a hearing impairment. If you have a visual impairment, know that about yourself, accept that, but use the ones that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we've talked about giving yourself that permission and not get frustrated if you hear us saying, list the five things, the five senses. If one of those is not applicable to you, practice patience with yourself. That's okay. Maybe in your case, we do a 1, 2, 3, 4, mm-hmm. or we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because maybe you repeat a couple senses that are your favorites, and that's okay too. So you can adapt these for you.
We don't have Jason to read comments.
Oh, I'm reading them.
I don't think anybody's really commented.
No, but I've been keeping track of them.
I was like, we don't have Jason to read comments.
I was able to catch some of that. It's been really, really good. Did you guys you're finishing up the activity? Is that what y'all were doing?
No, we were just talking about mindfulness exercises and things that we can do no matter where we're at. And how a lot of them are related to our senses, because us as human beings are very sensory oriented. And those who do have children on the spectrum or have sensory issues, even though they may feel that 10 times more, these are still applicable. And then also for those who may not have all of their senses available for different abilities, make it your own. If you don't have use of your hands, or you have a nerve condition you can't feel, or if you have a visual impairment or hearing impairment, you can adapt all these things for yourself.
Jennifer said, "I'm just listening." Awesome.
And I realized we didn't prep anybody for doing an activity. We didn't say go get some paper and markers. So I figured we would just hold on to it and do it another day when we were all here, and I remembered to tell people. Hey, go get paper and markers. I didn't do that.
One thing I will share, and I can always send this for you to post, Jason, is I found these at Target a while ago, and when I was going through some of my boxes, I found it. And this might also be helpful for those, and I figured it kind of went along with our mindfulness exercise, it's called let me see if I can do it. There we go. A gratitude scavenger hunt. So you find something outside that you enjoy looking at. Find something that is useful for you. Find something that is your favorite color. Find something that makes you happy, and you can read on. I'm trying to make it easy so if people want to screenshot it.
Send me a picture of that, and I can post it in the comment thread.
That's a good one.
I'm sure they don't have any more, but I was walking through the little clearance section, little dollar section of Target, and found these, and I grabbed them because I thought this was an amazing exercise, because I'm always seeing stuff through a counselor lens.
I saw one recently, though, on Pinterest that's similar. Let me see if I saved it, because then I can send it to you too, Jason.
Perfect. Yeah, anything like that would be great. I'm glad that we talked about the sensory, even with myself working with many who are on the spectrum, it honestly didn't cross my mind much about how that could be a struggle, especially mask wearing and stuff like that, until probably yesterday or day before. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about it. Myself, who I don't necessarily have as many, but I know with my husband and others who do have some sensory struggles that I can't even imagine. And then I know with Jennifer, with one of her children, like we've even said before, Dante the fact of Dante wearing a mask probably is not going to happen.
Get what
Dante would not keep it on. I can tell you that, I'm sure.
I'll be right back. I'm going to grab the thing I was talking about.
and one thing that my cousin, she actually brought it to my attention, because she's got littles. Her youngest, my niece, is not even 4 yet. And so trying to explain to a 4-year-old why you have to wear a mask, and that's a really difficult conversation to have, because first of all, they don't like to wear things they don't like to wear, regardless of if it's a mask or if it's pink or if it's just blue. Like, they just don't want to.
Yeah.
And so that's been something that I've had to start really educating myself on it as, you know, a play therapist and as someone who works with littles. How do I help parents explain to kids, especially the littles, why we wear a mask and the importance of it? And it's not been easy. And, you know,
in regards to that, I'll send you the link. There is a free book. I know I posted it on my personal Facebook page, and I believe I might have posted on Peaceful Counseling's page. But there is a book that someone's made for free that explains kind of what's going on for the younger children.
Okay.
But they also made it to where all of the characters in the book are of minority groups, which I thought was very, very interesting. And they have opened it free for everybody during this time. So that might be very helpful for parents in trying to explain things, because kids, of course, can get viruses. And if you say bugs, they're thinking like cockroaches. And
right.
You know, so even the terms we have to use, we have to be very careful with the language. But that book might be really good. I was going to show you, I keep this around. Yes, it's an old Keurig holder, but these hold a lot of my different stress balls. So what I was explaining is like, if someone's kind of in that moment of anxiety or fear, so I know just you kind of work in and out, is like this ball, if I squeeze it, it's like much harder than this ball that just goes. So if you give these to people and you have them explain what they feel like, on top of, I have ones that have like little beads in it and explaining that. I know we all have our brains. I've got one that looks like a brain. So I would have them explain what are the ridges. So as simple as that seems, it can be very helpful. And then a lot of parents, you can get these really cheap. Don't buy the expensive ones, but these are great. The bubblers, these are kind of like all my little fidgets that I use with clients. But these bubblers are great because, like we talked about breathing, is I have people breathe in and out as we watch the bubbles, because these only take about maybe 15, 20 seconds to go through it all. So some of these kind of things might be very helpful, again, to help you stay grounded. I know a lot of like the fidget spinners and stuff became very popular, but they really do have a therapeutical usage. So even like the fidget cubes, the fidget spinners, again, it helps people remain present in that moment, which are all forms of mindfulness. Oh, did Jason freeze, or was that my computer? Okay. So hopefully that gives everybody kind of like a large span of different exercises that you can use. Again, no matter where you're at, you know, home, the store, work, on your couch, in the car, just to be able to kind of catch your breath a little bit.
Yeah. And to decrease the tension, the anxiety, the anger, frustration, you know, those are the ones that, I don't know about you guys, but like when I'm out, trust me, I'm not out that much, but when I have been out, those are the feelings that I am feeling. And I don't like feeling that way. I don't like feeling mad at people. I don't like feeling frustrated at people. I don't like feeling annoyed and irritated and wound up. So again, it's nobody else's responsibility but my own to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. Jason, you with us? I know Jennifer said he's the only one that's freezing. So
you might have to pop out. If he pops out, do we all pop out?
We all pop out.
Oh, no.
Sorry, everybody. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. We will work it out here shortly. There he goes. Maybe he'll come back and it'll be okay. So before we kind of wrap things up, does anybody have any questions or feedback? So I know Jason's kind of in and out and freezing, but I can see the comments.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any comments or questions, or share an exercise you might use at home, maybe we didn't talk about or we didn't even hear about and we can use.
Yeah.
I'm always good for new ideas.
Yeah. I'll bring the snorty pug in. I did tell on Milo's Instagram that we would share his experience at the vet. So let me grab him so he can share his experience that he had at the vet, because that was my teaser to get people to come on in. Come here. He says, no, I'm taking a pug nap. All right, Come here. He says, no, Mom.
And I'm going to send that thing to Jason for him to post for all of you, that little gratitude scavenger hunt. And again, you don't have to use it as specifically like a scavenger hunt like we've done a couple weeks ago, but you can use it as a mindfulness exercise.
He just sent us a check your messages.
Okay, let me see.
Okay. So everybody, Milo and Martini, my other dog, got to go to the vet on Monday, and it was a pretty, weird experience because basically, if you guys haven't taken your pets to the vet during this time, at least at my vet, what they did was we had to call when we got there, and then tell them everything that was going on. And luckily for mine, it was just like their annual. So they just had to go and get like their, annual vaccines and all that stuff. So, but then they come out to the car and they just took them, which as a dog mom was pretty traumatic. I'm like, what do you mean I don't get to go with them? Like they're not going to do well. This is bad. They're going to be scared. I don't want them to be scared. They were fine. I still didn't like it, but they were fine. But Milo has actually, I told you guys this, but he's lost some pug weight. And the vet was joking with me saying, like, he's a pug. They don't lose weight. Like, they gain weight, if anything. How on earth has he lost weight? And we joked and said that it's probably because he's not in the office getting snacks from everybody. So Milo misses everybody and his snacks, but he's also now taking this opportunity to guilt me into saying, like, well, Mom, the vet said I could have more snacks. The vet said I could have more snacks. Yeah.
So Jason messaged me. He can't get back in. So we'll just, I guess, kind of close things up and leave, and then he'll be able to close out the live. So Jason did not give up, Jennifer. It's just not letting him back in. So yes, what we'll do then is we will be here next Thursday for another round of our mental health break. I guess as a closing, as we always close, I want to thank all of you for sticking with us. For Jason always is creating this platform for us to kind of do some of that community outreach to help everyone that's going through it. Lindsey and I are human beings. We're going through it. And like Lindsey said, we don't always know the right answer, but hopefully we're giving you at least some of those tools in that toolbox we can keep talking about for you to use with your young ones, your family members, your parents, yourself, your friends, colleagues, everybody and anybody. I know we throw a lot of ideas at you, but again, it's because we understand not everyone fits in the same little box with the same pretty little bow, and we need to find what works for everybody. So I appreciate you all still sticking with us. We hope that we're still giving you some great ideas and you're enjoying this. If you do have any ideas or you're struggling with stuff and you're hearing it over and over again, please send Jason a message for him to get in touch with us so we can kind of create a whole segment on things if we're seeing a continuous theme and subject come up. So I will say adieu and leave it with Lindsey for final closings.
Yeah, if you guys have topics that you want us to talk about or ideas, questions, anything, it can be something so simple as, my kid doesn't want to wear the mask. How do I handle that? To, some of maybe those bigger questions of my family members and I disagree so strongly on these situations. How do we cope with that? Family dynamics is really, really fun right now. Super fun. So yes. We try to come up with the things that we are seeing in our either clients' lives or in, our personal lives and bring those to the table. But if you guys have other things, please, 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 please share. I feel like a YouTuber. Tell me.
And since Jason is here, you know that he would always say you were loved, once, and accepted. I follow that same model right behind that. So thank you for watching. Do some self-care. Bye, Milo, and everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.